Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 7 of the Reactor Corps. My name is Kyle Springer. That's Melissa. She's laughing at me because right before this, I just completely, spazzed out.
Ready, the recording ready, and you trip over word one.
I trip over word one. Well, that is the kind of show it is going to be. As I mentioned, this is Reactor Corps episode 7. This is our special podcast that we do whenever there's some kind of movie, blockbuster, Netflix show, something that we just can't help but talk about. And this episode, we are going to be doing a Shazam spoilercast. We both went to go see that movie over the weekend, and I think we're pretty excited to talk about it. I have yet to hear your kind of thoughts or reactions, so it will be interesting.
First, I want to mark the historic moment. This is the first non-Disney property covered on a Reactor Corps, because previously it's just been Marvel superheroes and Star Wars.
Exactly. Let me see what ones we did. We've done everything from Black Panther to Infinity War to Solo. Incredibles 2 is Disney and Pixar. Ant-Man, and then we did Captain Marvel last time. So here we are with Shazam, first non-Disney. That's big. The idea is not to do only Disney and Marvel stuff, but it just happened.
They make the tent poles.
Yeah, that especially with their new acquisition, they own a lot of the major studios. But we are here to talk about Shazam, which was directed by David F. Sandberg, and yeah, this is gonna be a big spoiler cast. So if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend going to watch it first, because we will be spoiling it and talking about some of the plot-relevant details and stuff that happens in there, as well as kind of reviewing, discussing, critiquing, whatever you want to call it. That's what we will be doing here. I'm going to hit our spoiler alert button. So bam! Spoiler alert. Beyond this point, you will hear spoilers.
Did you know that Shazam is Billy Batson? I was shocked.
Yes, I did know that, Melissa. So I guess to preface things, I feel like I'm the more comic book nerd between the two of us. You're big on the comic book movies, but is this your first introduction to the character, period?
I know the basic concept of Shazam, and I feel like I saw at least part of
Except
DC.
For that, Billy Batson is also Shazam, which is the basic concept.
I saw at least part of some DC animated, direct-to-video film that had him in it.
There's one where he fights Superman, I think.
It might have been that one. I don't know which one it was.
I think it's called Shazam, First Superman, First Thunder.
Thunder?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my favorite knockoff soda.
First Thunder? Yeah, so you said you know the basic concept. You think you've seen maybe something where he exists in
I have,
the thing.
Yes.
I'm actually not too far in front of you on that one. I've barely read anything with Shazam in it. I've seen him around in other cartoons and stuff like that. But I believe it was Jeff Johns that was writing some of the Shazam stuff that was happening when DC launched the New 52 around 2009-ish. And it was, if I remember correctly, it was backups to the Justice League book. So the last 6 or 7 pages of the book was a Shazam story, and they heavily pulled from that series for this movie. So if you want some good comics to go check out, some more recent Shazam comics, that might be similar to the movie Shazam by Jeff Johns from the New 52. You guys can go check that out. I know Comixology.com right now is running a big Shazam sale on all of their digital comics. You guys can go pick up some Shazam stuff there if you guys are interested. But what did you think of the movie?
I loved it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good.
Time will tell how this sticks with me beyond, like, I saw it 2 days ago. Yeah. But this could be really up there for superhero movies with me. I've seen a lot of them. I love a lot of them. But this feels like, the top of the crust.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think it was funnier than I expected it to be.
Mm-hmm.
I as far as DC films go, I do kind of have to preface it by saying I don't like most of the DC films. I think Wonder Woman is the only good one that they've made, and now this one, which is up there. I think I like Wonder Woman better, but that's just personal preference. But yeah, I really liked this one. I think this one fit more into that for lack of better terms, the Marvel method. Like they have a very formulaic kind of presentation to a lot of their films now, and I think this fit in line with that, which means despite it, whether or not you think it's a great film or a good film or something, I think most people can be like, yeah, I had fun. This was a good film.
Very watchable, very charming. I think it's a good step forward.
Absolutely. Hopefully they keep the momentum going. Because that would be fantastic. So let's start out, I guess, with that opening kind of scene, because I think that was a surprise to a lot of people. That are not. Which, I mean, I think a lot of mainstream audiences aren't familiar with the character, but yeah, that's kind of like the whole opening scene with I guess it started with Dr. Savannah when he was a child, but the whole idea of like there's a car crash and there's just dark stuff happening. There's violence. Billy's an orphan. He doesn't really know if his parents are still out there. He's looking for him. It's some really dark stuff, and I don't think a lot of people were expecting that. What did you think?
Going to the opening scene, I had no idea who the Shazam's villain was. Like, I knew some of the other DC villains, like there's Batman's whole retinue. I knew Captain Cold. I knew Sinestro. Who Shazam fights, no idea. None. But I could tell this was the villain, whoever it was. I'm like, well, it's too far in the past to be Billy himself.
Yeah.
I loved the opening. I loved how dark and creepy it was, and how it's got the sort of shape of a typical, like, kids' adventure film, and we chose you, but it all goes wrong. And do you remember a couple weeks ago on the review show when we were watching Umbrella Academy?
Hey, Melissa, where can people find the review show?
On our website and on most fine podcatchers and on YouTube. You can watch us talk about it with your eyes.
You can look at my ugly mug and Melissa's beautiful face.
It averages out into two pretty okay faces.
Exactly.
When we were watching Umbrella Academy, I was talking about how it had a lot of action scenes set to music, but they often didn't feel really conjoined. It was just, it didn't make one whole, the two different parts of it. This opening scene, that's what I'm talking about. That kinetic energy of the car crash set to Do You Hear What I Hear playing on the radio on Christmas Day. That's it. That is a gold star example of matching a song perfectly to what is going on in the scene. You could not sub out another song and have that scene be as effective as it was.
What did you think about that song choice in particular?
Oh, I liked it because it is sort of warm and familiar, but it's a weird kind of solemn, foreboding song, like a lot of old Christmas songs kind of are.
Something is coming.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, a lot of religious stuff can kind of be viewed as that, but yeah, like you get the like warm fuzzy feeling of, oh, it's the holidays, it's Christmas, and then yeah, there is this like religious kind of undertone that maybe this guy ends up feeling like he was supposed to be the chosen one, like he was supposed to be the savior, you know, which is kind of foreshadowing for down the road. No pun intended there. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting song choice, especially since it's like late spring right now. It's not really, at least where I am, it's not very cold anymore, and so it always seems like an odd choice to start something. It's like it's the middle of winter.
I loved that this was set at Christmas time. I feel like it was never overblown. It isn't a Christmas movie. It just coincidentally is Christmas, but that's more than just set dressing and snow and pretty lights and the cowardly Santa running around screaming through the second half of the film.
Which was oddly one of my favorite jokes.
I like it.
He reminded me of the Cabbages guy.
Yes.
From Avatar, The Last Airbender. My cabbages!
Yes. I think the Christmas setting was a really good echo of the themes of the film. Even down to like really specific meta stuff like Shazam, it starts with Solomon, it starts with a wise man. Oh, let's set it at a time of year when there is 3 wise men in like half the lawns in the city.
Yeah.
You know, like he walks right past a bunch of nativity scene statues at one point.
Yeah, I think it worked, especially also for the setting too, since he's in Philadelphia. Yeah. It's usually a little bit colder up in the Northeast still at this time. So it worked, but for like me in particular, there was a small bit of disconnect there. You usually don't see like late spring, early summer movies being set in the winter time, or maybe you do and we just don't know, or I'm not thinking of them.
But I liked it. I like that they took a very specific, weird choice that really worked for them and they stood by it.
Yeah.
I also like that it was set in Philadelphia. Like you get so many big movies like this that are like Southern California, New York, a fake city like a Gotham. I don't think I've ever seen another like mid-size real world city.
Yeah.
And like the setting, like the city it's in and the time of year it's in both felt really well matched to the movie.
So I know that's one thing that DC does very different from Marvel Comics, is that DC often does have fake cities.
Yeah, where's he from in the comics? Do you know?
I don't know. If I'm not mistaken, I think that Jeff Johns' run of the comics is also in Philadelphia, but I could be wrong on that.
I didn't even think about that, because I know there's like Gotham and Metropolis and Central City. Others.
Yeah.
Arrow lives.
I'm looking at the... I should look at the comics one, not the film one. I have the Wikipedia pages up, and I'm seeing if I can just skim through and see if it mentions a city where he is from. I am not seeing it right now. Maybe we can Google it in just a bit here. But yeah, so DC Comics usually has like fake cities. Marvel usually has real ones, though like 90% of the Marvel universe is all in New York.
Yeah.
There's very few things outside of that, or space, you know, but when they're on Earth, it's like New York. That being said, I don't like Shazam has a very interesting history as a character. If you're a history buff and you want to learn some interesting comic book history, look up the history of Shazam, because it's a fascinating one. He was not originally a DC Comics character. He was owned by Fawcett Comics, which was another comics publishing company, but it was kind of supposed to almost be similar to a Superman kind of thing. But obviously there was this thing when you said the magic word, you would turn into this superhero. Do you know what his original name was as a superhero?
Was he Captain Marvel?
He was Captain Marvel.
Yes.
And then, somewhere along the line, Marvel was like, well, hey, Marvel's our name, so you can't really call him that. In fact, we're going to make our own character named Captain Marvel. And Marvel won the rights to the name, so they had to end up calling him Shazam. Then DC bought him, but at one point there was, I think, a legal battle with DC as well, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong there. But at one point, Shazam was outselling Superman. He was a more popular comic book character than Superman by a long shot. I don't know the exact numbers, but again, you guys can go look all of that stuff up. So it's some really interesting stuff. But yeah, I'm not sure what city he is in, but I do like it was set in Philly. Good stuff. So what did you think of the whole like magic aspect to the character? Because we see this car crash, and Dr. Savannah, when he's a kid, Child Savannah? What was his actual name? What was his
little guy
name? Little guy. Hey there, little guy. Lil Abner. I have no idea what his name was. But Dr. Savannah is, he's like brought into the presence of Shazam and being like, hey, are you the chosen one? You can either pick to be the chosen one, or you can be an evil motherfucker. And he was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna be an evil motherfucker. And so he got kicked out. And there is this whole idea that it's not just your typical superhero that fell into a vat of radioactive who knows what, but there is this like magical aspect to him, which is interesting because that's also one of Superman's weaknesses.
Magic?
He does not like magic.
Well, he might be weak to it. Maybe he just likes watching a card trick. We shouldn't speak for whether or not he likes magic.
I mean, in the sense that like magical objects can waken him, but yeah. So, what did you think of the magical aspects of Shazam?
I like that a lot. I'm more of a fantasy person than a sci-fi person, so seeing something so wizardly was a good change of pace for me. And I do like heroes that have powers given to them from on high, not like it was something I was born with, be it in a Superman way or an X-Men way, or I fell into a vat of something, like, like the science mistake, like the Hulk, or the Batman, Iron Man, I built it myself. I like this in Green Lantern, that sort of a higher power bestowed this on you, and you have to kind of play by its rules.
Yeah, I
live up to that sort of.
I really like that too.
Morality, yeah.
Because I think besides Green Lantern, there's not very many characters like that where they have they still have to answer to some kind of higher power or boss man figure thing.
Green Lantern's more like a cop, where it's a higher power, but it's also like his boss, and he has to write a report about it, which Shazam doesn't have to do. But it's like, oh, I have been chosen. Like, I have to remain a certain kind of character. Like, I really have to use this for good, or else who knows what's going to happen.
It might get taken away. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is an interesting one. So I really liked the depiction of this character because I think a lot of times I've seen it both I've seen it both ways, where when he turns into Shazam, he actually is like a different character, and it's no longer Billy Batson with these powers, but I do like that childlike aspect of the character. So someone I follow on Twitter saw the movie and was really let down by the tone of the film. And it sounds like I'm jumping around here, but stick with me.
Yeah.
They were disappointed in the tone because they felt like it kept switching between this really, really fun movie and then going to all these dark, like almost violent, I mean, I not almost, but just these dark tones and these really lighthearted, funny tones, and then it kept going back and forth, and they were like, it was really jarring to them, and I don't know their familiarity with the character, but when I saw that, I was like, that's kind of the point of this character. He is a child that is like all of a sudden put into these adult situations, and whereas someone like Superman or Batman might have this like inner monologue, oh man, I have this moral conundrum, should I do the right thing, am I a man or a god or this or that? He's just like, well, I just want to have fun and hit things because that's really cool, you know? And like he doesn't really overthink it besides that. And he has this really stark sense of, oh, you're a bad guy, I'm supposed to hit you, you know? And that's it. And I think that's a lot of fun. And that whole, like, how does he handle these really, really dark situations? This guy who feels like he was supposed to be a chosen one, right? That he should be the one to have that power. How does he handle that? You know? So I really liked it.
I really appreciated the darkness in this film. It was never excessive. I never really got any tone whiplash from it. I could see how it might happen to somebody else. I love that this movie did not pull any punches. And when it was time to get brutal or scary, it went there. Like the opening car crash is really visceral.
Yeah.
And like when Savannah takes all the monsters to the boardroom meeting with his dad and his brother.
That was a horrifying scene.
It is.
That was like one of the most there was a lot of people at the theater that I went to that had their children there, and that was one I was like, oh man, I wonder what the parents are thinking right now.
This is weird to say. This is, I think, among the scariest superhero movies.
Interesting.
Which is a weird metric to judge it by, because they're not really
the Hellboy films that are kind of scary. Yeah, there's that one that's coming out. I don't know if it's actually based off of comics. Mutants? Well, there is the New Mutants one that is supposed to be a horror movie, but who knows if that one is ever actually going to come out, because they don't really know what's happening with that one. But there was another one called Brightburn. I don't think it's based off any comics. I don't know this. But I saw it and it looks terrifying. It looks great.
That's fun. Yeah. I like that it is a child adventure movie. Not real young kids, but just sort of like a 12, 13-year-old adventure movie.
Yeah.
Which is when you're at the age where you kind of want something a little scary. And I like that it gave you that. There are moments in this movie that I'm like, these are going to be the terrifying moments for kids in the future. The way somebody our age might say, like, oh, I love Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but Large Marge freaked me out. We're going to have kids growing up saying, Shazam is so fun. But the part where they open up the door to the alternate dimension and it's 3 alligators playing poker, that scared me. Which isn't one of the brutal, scary things, but it's just so weird and unsettling and brief, and they leave and nothing happens with it, which is the point of it. Of course, nothing's going to happen with it.
The look of those monsters, too, just like that, like
The monsters, yeah.
Like, especially if they saw it in theaters too, just how loud and booming the voices were, and like the bass like in them was like, whoa.
I loved the monsters and the whole like wizardly lair because it reminded me so much of kid adventure from when we were kids. Like, how many fake rocks and rock monsters were there in Power Rangers or something else like that? Like, specifically the setting of Dank Cave with big sculptures in it.
Dank Cave, bro.
That hits
What's
something
up, Shazam?
Really,
Dank Cave, bro.
that hits something really nostalgic in me that I can't quite pinpoint.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, like there was a lot of really scary moments in here, but I think that's kind of the point of the character, at least in a more modern sense. That in my mind, what I feel like the character has become, of just like, hey, he actually still is a kid. Sure, he has the wisdom of Solomon and all of that stuff, but children can be wise. It doesn't, need to be that they have some kind of moral conundrum that they have to deal with. It can just be like, all right, you're the bad guy. Let's beat you.
Yeah.
So I really liked all of that stuff.
I also want to talk about. We talked about the violent end. Let's talk about the sexy end of being an adult tone, which there isn't, which I liked because I know that's an easy joke to go for, like 14-year-old boy in adult man's body. Like, in other hands, he would be flirtier, but I like that that's not a part of this.
I mean,
I like, okay, the part where they go to the strip club, there's the sign saying free wings. You get the impression that it's like, at least 50% like free wings. I'm an adult. I can go. There's free wings, really? Like,
yeah,
I like that, and I also like that he.
That's the thing. There is this innocence about him,
and I like that he comes out and he's like, "They're really persuasive. They want me to bring them some money," and it's not like, I'm gonna go see some boobs. It's like, all those pretty ladies asked me for dollars and I'm nervous, so I guess I'm gonna give them dollars. Like, I like how it's very innocent.
They have glitter? I want glitter.
Yeah. I like that they went into a strip club, but it's pretty much just, what's it like in there and what kind of snacks are there? I also love when they they portal into there and Freddie comes out and he's like yelling something back to like one of the strippers and her name is Sriracha. There's a lot of really good tiny throwaway lines in this movie that are fantastic. Like, I love when they're all at the dinner table after like Shazam has been the big hero around town. And it's who's the green kid? I'm forgetting his name.
I don't remember which one had which color, but is he
he's the real quiet kid who's like, it's trying to be the strong one and like lift the weights.
Lift the weight. Is it the guy, the bigger kid who looks like he might be Hispanic?
Yes, that kid.
That guy.
I'm blanking out on what his name was, but they're talking about Shazam, and he's like, I don't know about that costume. I mean, a big white cape. It's like he's getting married. And I just love that it's like, it almost makes sense. Like, big white. You don't wear a cape. Nobody wears a cape to a wedding.
Capes.
I thought this was a really funny movie. I like all the tiny lines like that.
Well, there was there's tiny lines like that, and especially with that character, there were hints that he was gay, but they don't ever really say it, which I thought was nice.
I liked how kind of ambiguous that joke was, because it's after they have to like run out from the strip club, and I think it's Darla makes a comment about how it was just like loud music in there. because she had her eyes covered the entire time by her big sister, so she can't see the strippers. She can just hear the music they're stripping to. And then the kids is the weightlifter kids is something like,
his
not
name
my
is
type.
Pedro. By the way,
okay. Yeah. I thought it might have been that, but I'm like, no, that's too obvious.
Pedro Pena.
Oh, what a sweet name! He's got that alliteration, so he's all set up to be a superhero. Like he says, just not my type, which it's about the ladies, but also could be like, I don't like that music.
Yeah.
I like that it could serve both purposes very easily.
You should check out, I mean, he's not a main character in there, but he appears in the Young Justice cartoon, Shazam. And he's very much he's like big and strong like Superman, but he's very much like the childlike thing. And so he often gets the short end of the stick because he's in the Justice League, because he's an adult.
Yeah.
Right? Or he looks like an adult, and they don't actually know who his alter ego is or that he is a child.
Maybe I have seen some of this, because this part of it sounds really familiar to me.
But then when the Teen Titans end up showing up, he's like, all right, people my age, hey, what's up, guys? And he's like the happiest, most like chipper, like I relate to you. And they're all like, why are you trying to act like you fit in with us? You're an adult. Like
I think this is such a tough line to walk, and I feel like the tone and making Billy seem mature enough without being too mature was done really well. And I love that in the two directions of like adult themes, they chose to go with violence over sexuality in this movie, which was a far better choice.
What did you think about Freddy? He was the foster brother who was disabled.
I liked him. Putting a character in a superhero movie who's a really big fan of the pre-existing superheroes is another thing that could be tricky. But everything about him also feels really natural. He feels exactly like a real kid in this world would be. I mean, you take the events of Justice League and everything else. These heroes are well known to the public. There would be little fans of them who collect their merchandise. And everything about him, you could take him out of this movie and put him in just any other movie that is not a DC property, and he could stay exactly the same, and everything about him would remain like perfectly natural. Like always wears a superhero t-shirt, has like a replica batarang. You just take away like his Superman bullet, and he could be ported to any other non-DC movie really easily, which I liked.
So I agree with you 99% of that. The only thing is that I thought he was really annoying. And like there was like moments in that film, I'm just like, oh my god, what are you doing? Like I like if I was Billy, I would hate your guts right now. Like it's one of those things. You said it was tricky to have a character who's a fan of the hero stuff. I don't think it was necessarily that I was annoyed by how much he liked the other heroes and stuff. It was just like how much he wanted to insert himself in. It wasn't like I thought he was a bad actor or stuff. It was literally the way his character is. I feel like meant to be. Like he wants to insert himself in there. He wanted to have those powers as well. And it's just. I feel like coming from a kid who is also obsessed with the superhero stuff, it was just a little much. I don't know.
Oh, he's very chatty to the point of being obnoxious. But that is kind of the point of it.
Yeah.
Like you can see why he doesn't really have any friends, why he is kind of an outsider. And this is weird to say, but I like that he was an outsider and disabled, but he wasn't an outsider because he was disabled. Right. It was because other kids didn't like his personality,
he was
which
just
sounds mean.
Way too talkative.
Yeah. I like that he had those layers to him.
Yeah.
And I like that the fact that he was disabled wasn't a very big factor in the film. Again, it felt very natural. It felt like it was talked about just exactly as much as it might be talked about in the real world.
Yeah. Yeah. He was one of the things that I walked away from the film just being like, man, that was a really annoying character. Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything narrative wise or plot holes that you saw or things that you didn't like or stuff that you wanted to nitpick at? What was there anything you saw?
My biggest gripe with the movie is that the scene where the whole family's sitting down to dinner, this is when Billy and Freddie get in that big argument.
Sure.
Everybody has a full glass of orange juice for dinner. And I thought that was a weird choice.
I mean, hey, maybe they're having breakfast for dinner. Who knows?
Weren't.
I don't remember what they were having.
That's a very tiny gripe, but the second that was on screen, I'm like, who picked that?
Who has orange juice for dinner?
Who was in charge of props this day?
So the first big, like, I don't really know if I can call it like a plot relevant detail or something like that, but the first thing that I was like, that seems wrong, was when Billy finally found where his mother was living.
Yeah.
And he goes to her, he confronts her, and he leads with the line, "I found my way home," and he opens up his fist, and he still has that compass that he got when he was a really, really young kid. And it's when he shows that his mother recognizes him. He goes, "Oh, I know who you are. You're not just someone who's pulling my leg. There's absolutely no way, like you could not be my kid because you have this thing." Then when he's leaving, he tries to give it to her, and she responds with, "What the hell is that?" And so it's just like, you just knew what that was because you recognized him because of it, and now you have no idea what that thing is. That doesn't make sense to me. Again, I guess is a smaller.
Well, maybe she recognized him, like, from saying, "I found my way home," and he's holding the prop, and she's like not even looking at it. Like, oh, but who would find their way home to me?
I mean, yeah, but like, it's just this idea of like, hey, here, look at this thing. I have this compass, and she goes, "Oh, okay." I mean, yeah, you're right in the sense that, like, hey, there is someone significant in her life that would maybe one day being like, "What the fuck," and that happens, but he does it in a way of like, hey, here's this important thing that may jog your memory, and then at the end, she's just like, what the fuck is that thing, So I thought that was strange. The second thing leads into something else I want to talk about was
I want to talk about the mom a little bit.
Oh, sure. Well, let's stick here then. What did you have to say about the mom?
The thing with his mom is another one of the... We were talking about how the movie doesn't pull any punches with like brutal in the action or having these 7 deadly sin monsters be really scary. It also is really harsh with his reunion with his mother.
Yeah.
And it's not difficult. It's difficult to imagine, not because that's not something that would really happen out here in the real world. It's difficult to think about just because it hurts so bad. Yeah. Like, that's one of the most rough emotional points in any movie I've seen in recent years. And it's not cold. Like, she wasn't like, "Oh, I always hated you, couldn't wait to get rid of you." It's so hollow. Like, she's trying, and she has the opportunity to get out of there, and she's like, I knew I was never going to and it's not like, "Oh, I just wanted you to have a good life." It's like, I was tired and I didn't want to do it anymore. So
Yeah.
I left you with the cops because I thought they would find a good home for you. Did you find a good home? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Like, it's
this
so hollow.
this movie has a really good theme of like coming to terms with
Mm-hmm.
reality.
Yes.
And I think for the mom in this case, it was the reality that she had him before she was 18.
Yeah.
And she knew that her life was not in a good spot, that she
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to be able to really fix it if he was around.
Yeah.
And not that she really did fix it. It sounded like she was still in a very bad spot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like that was kind of her coming to terms with that of like, I'm not gonna be able to provide that kind of life for him, and then Billy having to come to terms with, well, that's the hand I was dealt, as
Yeah.
well as I also have this new incredible power. Like, how do I
Mm-hmm.
deal with that? You know. So I think that's a good theme, but that scene, yeah, is really interesting and really emotional, because usually an emotional beat like that will have a better impact if you're like further down the road, like if you've been
Mm-hmm.
with the character a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes you have to have those beats to make things like to make you
Mm-hmm.
connect with them. But I felt like this is one that this is pretty early on in us figuring out who this character is. It could almost be a throwaway moment, and it didn't feel like that. Which is
No,
a
it
very
was
nice thing.
heavy.
Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah. Like I think it's a really bold in a good way narrative stroke for this movie to take. Oh, it just hurts so much.
yeah.
I don't know if I've ever been hurt that much by a superhero movie I've seen. Short of like, I don't feel so well, Mr. Stark, which we know will. Like, that's gonna resolve itself. This isn't.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I loved the new family though. I know you had another thing you wanted to jump to, but
That
the
was a
adoptive
perfect
parents,
segue.
I love the adoptive parents. I like that they're young and hip without being too young and hip.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
was a movie full of like just really competent balance, which is a weird compliment to give it, but like I never felt like it swung too far in any direction when it was trying to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
it's a real tightrope walking movie.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. So I did want to talk about the
Mm-hmm.
family, specifically the
Mm-hmm.
other foster kids. In the original Captain Marvel comics, there was a whole family of them. There was Mary Marvel, you know, I don't
Oh,
remember all of their names. I think there was like Uncle Marvel at one point
Marvel.
as well. Yeah, they all like it was a whole family, and they were all like their own superheroes. The modern day Shazam comics doesn't really use them, at least to my knowledge. They're not
Mm-hmm.
they're not characters that are really around in the DC universe. So
Oh.
I thought it was a really odd choice to introduce the concepts that, hey, there is more than one
Mm-hmm.
in them. Or I mean, like they mentioned the like my brothers and sisters on the seventh
Yeah.
thrones. Like I like that introduction, but then actually physically bringing in the family,
Mm-hmm.
they handled it really well, but it was a little weird for me of like, oh, that seems strange that they would do that so early, if that
So
makes
early in
sense.
like the
just just like,
potential franchise of
yeah,
Shazam. Okay.
like of all the things that could be happening in a Shazam film and characters that you want to
Mm-hmm.
introduce, I felt like to modern day audiences that would have been, I mean, to modern day comic book audiences, and then to move that to a film, that's maybe a concept that I felt like would have been lower down on the ladder.
Okay. Yeah. I I liked it because it felt so. This was more of the like classic 90s, like fun family adventure kind of turn for the story to take.
Uh-huh.
But it doesn't feel like hackneyed. It's not something you like see coming like the siblings are gonna come help them, but you don't think like they're not gonna also be superheroes. I don't think I put it together until Shazam put it together. Like, oh, he could probably get the same thing to happen to them too if they all touch the staff.
Yeah, it was more for me that like I could see them maybe hinting that Mary would become one, because I think she's maybe the most used one, because it's like, oh, here's your like your older sister, here's Batgirl, here's Superwoman. But even then, yeah, like I felt like it would have been more about Shazam or Billy himself. But that being said, I think in the end they really wanted this to be about family and like, hey, like again, it's him coming to terms with reality that he now has a new family. And this is his new family, and they're finally learning to work together and become friends and, actually be a family. Which is nice. So like it's not that it's like, oh, I hated this, they shouldn't have done that. I was like, I didn't expect them to do that. I think it's a little strange, but I think it worked out nice.
It's a really great bow at the end of everything. I liked all the siblings. I like that it wasn't just all of them as a collective and then Billy. Like Mary was struggling with, do I stay with them, do I leave home?
Yeah.
And like that brings all of them closer together, like all 6 of them, not just the 5 of them and Billy.
Yeah. So I thought it worked out. I actually do have one more nitpick, and this has to do with how they defeated Dr. Sivana. So the scene when Shazam separates Dr. Sivana from the rest of the family and takes him into or when Sivana's like, give me your powers, and he's like, all right, I'll go with you, and they enter in that door, and it takes them to the dank cave. They go in there, and then there's the moment when they throw the batarang and it hits Dr. Sivana in the back of the head, and he immediately turns around, because who wouldn't, and been like, who the fuck was that? What the hell? And that's when we see the like, hey, here's how you defeat him. You get all of the monsters out, and then he's vulnerable. My problem with what happened is Shazam was the one that noticed that. It was Billy who noticed that, not Freddy.
I think
then later on, it like, because when he turns around, his like the cut on the back of his head is still there, but when all of the when all of the Sedley, I cannot speak today. When all of the 7 deadly sins go back into him, that's when Shazam notices that it heals him. But there was also a moment earlier on when I think Dr. Sivana mentions to Shazam that like normal weapons won't work on him, but I don't think any of the kids were around to hear that. I could be wrong, but I like, it's one of those things of like, they weren't around to hear that. They didn't see his cut get healed. But at the end, they were just like, we have to separate them. That's how you do it. I was like, how do you know that?
No, okay. So the camera shows. Okay, so Dr. Sivana is facing. I think he's facing Billy, and when he gets hit in the head, and he kind of turns around. So the camera shows us Billy noticing the cut on the back of his head, but it is also completely within physical capability for the other kids to notice it. They just missed that one like recognition shot of Freddy. Like, the movie didn't spell it out for you, but I do see how it's entirely possible.
I feel like that's a stretch because they are like 20-something feet away. Like, the idea is they have to throw this thing at him. They're enough of a distance away that if the whole smoke thing happening of these monsters going back inside him, I feel like that would be a distraction from this one tiny cut he got on the back of his head. And like that healing up from like 20-30 feet away, like they wouldn't really be able to see that, maybe, or like that's not like it's such a small detail, and that's why like Shazam was right there, like 3 feet behind him, being like, oh, I get it now.
I could see how they got there. I do agree there could have been like one shot of one of the kids noticing it, or one line. To be short that little in a movie this long, I think they did pretty well for themselves.
Yeah, or just like one scene of them being like, hey, we should probably tell the rest of the group this is how you do it. And he's like, this is how you defeat him. Do this thing. And in the end, it's the other kid. And it's like, how did you know that? There's no way you could have known. So that was my only other nitpick.
I want to take a second and just say I appreciate that the lust demon wasn't a sexy lady demon, which Billy also is like, I would have expected that. That's not true. So that's interesting.
Yeah. They reminded me of the Full Metal Alchemist things. I forget what the homunculi. So they embody the 7 deadly sins.
I have heard of this. They reminded me of these statues that come to life in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie.
There you go.
I want to take a second and talk about the numerology of this film.
Numerology? What do you mean?
Okay, so Shazam, he's got the power of 6 different folks, okay?
Let me pull it up so
it's
we can.
Solomon. I don't know if I'll get these A's in the right order.
Solomon, Hercules.
No, I can do it, Kyle. It's Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury.
Correct.
Who's the champ? Who
ding,
wins
ding, ding! Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
So there's 6 of those elements. There's 6 of those kids. I kept waiting for each kid to embody an element.
They kind of did. That was they each figured out, like, oh, you have the lightning fist. Oh, you have speed. Oh, you have this thing.
I was expecting each kid, like, not in their superhero forms, but like, so like Pedro likes to lift weights. I'm like, oh, he's going to be the Hercules. But nobody else, like, well, some of them are smart, and like, you know, Eugene talks really fast and Freddy talks really fast. And it wasn't quite as clearly delineated as I expected. Okay. But okay, so there's 6 of those. There's the 7 different wizards that formed this like Shazam council, and then Dr. Sivana's got the magic 8-ball.
Interesting.
Yeah, I
didn't pick up on that.
I don't know if it adds up to anything more than that, but I liked the 7 and the 8. And then this is a tiny thing, but you'll notice in the background whenever they're at the foster house that they're always playing some like a pop song quietly in the background, and it seems diegetic to the scene. Like that's the music that somebody in the house has put on, maybe as a further cue to you, like, these are cool, relaxed parents. They listen to the music of the youth or whatever.
Yeah.
The scene where it's like just after Billy runs away, like he gets his Shazam powers, but the parents think he's just ran away. The mom is on the phone and she's like talking to some social worker, and she says, he's ran away 23 times already. And the song playing in the background is 24 Karat Magic.
Interesting.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if it means anything. It was just like a weird lineup.
So yeah, the only thing I can think of would be the like 7. Like 7 is often viewed as a complete number in like religious based stuff.
Yeah, real magic.
Yeah, and in magic stuff. So yeah, having that like that 8-ball be his thing is an interesting
like
twist.
He's almost there, but he didn't quite make it.
Yeah.
You know how Scott Pilgrim versus the World is filled with like number symbolism, and like Scott represents the 0 of the 7 deadly X's. He's 0. He drinks Coke 0. He wears a shirt with like a big 0 or a circle on it or something like that. Yeah. There's more examples. That's just what I remember off the top of my head. I feel like if I watched more closely again, this movie might have that same kind of thing happening.
Interesting.
What did you think about... I don't have many more points, so if you want to wrap it up. What did you think about the fact that the end credits are very much like the Spider-Man Homecoming end credits?
I liked them a lot.
I liked them a lot, too.
I loved it.
They're great credits. The Spider-Man Homecoming credits are great credits. And really what's similar about them is that they both use a Ramones song. This one in particular I felt like was really aptly picked.
Yeah.
And they have these sort of, fantastical, like, kid escapism notebook drawings to them. And that's really all they have in common. But I don't know if that was like... I wonder if that was like a deliberate choice, like what that did for Marvel, what that kind of represents. That's kind of what we're trying to do here. But it also gave me a really nice description point. Like, I didn't really think about it until then. Like, oh yeah, I guess this is the Spider-Man Homecoming of the DCU. So I was trying to describe this movie to a friend who like had seen a commercial but didn't really know Shazam or what it was about or what it was like. And I'm like, it's Big meets Spider-Man Homecoming. And she's like, okay, I got it. I'm interested in this now.
That's exactly it. Obviously Shazam and Spider-Man aren't really similar type of characters, but in the sense that, yes, they are usually both like, Shazam is actually a kid and Spider-Man is usually like young teen, you know? They're both kids. So I think trying to appeal to that audience is exactly it. Like, he's fucking flossing in this. Like, come on. Like, I feel like that is such an annoying joke now that we all just need to stop it and not do that. But like, it's absolutely appealing to that
and that's
audience.
Exactly what a kid would do back when you know when this was filmed like a year ago or whatever. To now, kids are still doing that. I feel like Fortnite some people are tired of it, but big, like 12-year-olds wouldn't be. Yeah.
Only other things I was gonna say. So the first appearance of Captain Marvel was in Wiz Comics #2. I don't remember there being any kind of reference to Wiz Comics or you using like, hey, he's Wiz Man, or something like that. A lot of the Marvel movies will do that. They'll make reference to like an Ant-Man. He's like, well, this is not some astonishing tale, and it's like, well, but Ant-Man first appeared in Astonishing Tales.
Maybe if we watch some of the high school scenes again closer, in the background there's like a flyer for our theater production is putting on the Wiz.
Speaking of their high school is like Fawcett High School, which is the comics, the publishing company, Fawcett Comics.
That's right.
Last but not least, a little fun fact for you. I am sure you're familiar with Elvis.
Yes.
His favorite superhero was Shazam, and that's why he eventually modeled himself with the lightning bolt on his chest and the small cape.
Yeah, that is the Elvis cape, ain't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was a big Shazam fan.
They gotta have him making a peanut butter and bacon and banana sandwich in the next movie.
There you go. Exactly. That's all I really have to say about this film. I had a lot of fun. I highly recommend going to check it out, or at least like having a movie night once it comes out on DVD or on Netflix or something. Have some fun. It's a good film. There are some scary moments, but Good stuff.
Yeah, really one of my favorite ones I've seen recently.
Yeah. I think I mentioned it at the start. I think this is my number 2 for DC films right now. Wonder Woman and then Shazam. Nothing else makes the list right now.
I liked Wonder Woman a lot, but I need fun.
Yeah.
There's not enough fun in Wonder Woman. When they have it, it's good. Like when she sees the baby and she's like, "Oh, look, a baby." I can't do it as well as she does it, but it's great. Or like when she's talking with Steve Trevor on the boat.
Yeah.
There's great bits in Wonder Woman, but this is like, okay, it's not all the same. It's all the fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the same like childlike. Like, let's just have fun and punch things and,
drastically different.
Go eat a bunch of junk food. And
Shazam is the type of film. I also like, just finally, I love that they're like, let's try beer, and they take one drink and they're like, this is terrible. Let's go eat like age appropriate snacks.
Let's go get some Mountain Dew. Yeah. It's good. It was a lot of fun. So again, highly recommend it. Go check it out. Comixology.com is having a bunch of digital comic book sales. If you are interested in checking out some of the Shazam comics, you guys can absolutely go do that. Let's see. This has been episode 7 of the Reactor Corps. We are chugging along there. I think officially our next one is going to be yet another Disney film. I totally forgot that Hellboy comes out this week, though.
I remembered Hellboy was happening, but I completely forgot what date.
So I might go watch it. If you want to switch up the style, if you want to switch up this, or I mean, if you want to go see it too, we can go do that.
Hellboy.
We can switch up the style, because I know you expressed interest in Good Omens, which will be an Amazon Prime show, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't really care for that, but I'd be happy to like interview you / like have you like tell me about it and like teach me and why this was so good and how the adaptation held up. Maybe we can do something like that. I actually haven't really read much of the Hellboy comics. Actually haven't read any of them, but I think that might be a fun one to see. I don't have tickets yet, so play it by ear, be on the lookout. Maybe
I'll have to get on it too.
If not, I think Avengers Endgame will be our next episode of this. But Melissa, where can the people find you these days? What are you up to?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT.
I am at Yo Kyle Springer on all the things, Twitter and Instagram especially. If you guys want updates with this show or any of our other podcasts, you can find us on Twitter at The Whatnauts or at thewhatnauts.com for more information. You can search all of our podcasts on any podcast app you guys use. If there's one we're not on, let us know, and we will hope to rectify that. But yeah, you can just search The Whatnauts, and you will find all of our shows there. That being said, this episode, we're recording this Monday night. I should have this up first thing Tuesday morning. Because I don't like to put out these spoiler casts that much later after the thing already happened. So yeah, this will be out. Patreon.com/thewhatnauts is where you can support us. For a single $1, you can get most of our other podcasts, obviously except for this one. You can get them early, and you can get access to our live streams, like of the Whatnauts review show. That'll be a fantastic one. Yes.
You said that you could get most of our other shows for $1. If you are gracious enough to give us $3 a month, we do a bonus episode of the review show once a month. It's the same format of the review show, but we do something a little bit more specific, curated, kind of weirder and wilder and tougher to explain. This month, we watched a couple of sorted episodes of Batman Beyond and one bonus episode of Justice League Unlimited that kind of form one storyline together.
Exactly. kind of condenses all of Batman Beyond into one thing. So be on the lookout for that as well. That's at the $3 tier on Patreon, patreon.com/thewhatnauts, where you can get all of that stuff. With that said, episode 7 of the Reactor Corps, we are out. Adios, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out that episode of the Whatnauts Reactor Corps. I almost forgot the name of the show. I did that on the last one that I did too. Go subscribe to our channel up there. That would help us out a ton. And go watch our latest upload, which is right down here. Thank you very much. That would help us out a ton. Love you. Bye.